Did The Biggest Loser hurt or harm the contestants' metabolisms?
Yelling, screaming, that's good TV.
Pills. Tell us about the pills.
Oh my god, The Biggest Loser was like the most inspiring TV show until it wasn't.
I don't want to be yelled at. I don't want to be harmed.
The contestants thought the show would transform their lives and their bodies, but now shocking accusations by some former contestants of NBC's TV show, The Biggest Loser, claim that the reality show is full of lies, deceit, and diet drugs, and many eventually gained all that weight back.
What the Joel? Every single time at 20 seconds, every time. What is it? What is it? Tell me what it is.
I am trying and giving you...
No, you're not!
There have been some contestants of The Biggest Loser that have definitely criticized being on the show. Many of them have gained back a lot of the weight, if not all of the weight.
We had no idea what we were doing.
That little country bumpkin of a man berates me in such a way I've never seen on the show before.
The TV producers were very happy.
Go! So unless you faint, puke, or die, keep walking!
I've never seen someone get abused.
They're getting on the scale and it's like 20 pounds gone.
Are you or not?
I'm ready!
Finale. And this is when I actually quit the show. They would go home, and then when you have a show that you get rewarded for losing the most amount of weight, what happens when you're done? What happens when you don't need to lose more weight and in fact should not lose more weight and you've got $100,000 on the line?
So I just finished watching Fit for TV, which is this new Netflix documentary that's about The Biggest Loser and the come up of the show and all of the contestants and all that. And after watching this, I have so many questions. So today we're going to be diving into that and talking about The Biggest Loser and how it was the most inspiring TV show until it wasn't. But specifically in this video, I wanted to talk about The Biggest Loser's past contestants and of course the past coaches like Jillian and Bob, and the moment that the show lost all credibility, and that involves Rachel Frederickson. So if you watch the documentary, you'd know that Rachel Frederickson was the season 15 winner, and she had some pretty alarming weight loss to say the least. So we're going to dive into that. But if you love The Biggest Loser, or if you're not familiar with The Biggest Loser, just to recap so that you know what we're talking about.
The Biggest Loser was essentially a weight loss competition reality show where contestants who struggle with obesity were coming together to live on this ranch for several months, and they're competing to see who can lose the highest percentage of their body weight, and the winner that does that takes home a large cash prize of $250,000. Now, to set the stage for the era when The Biggest Loser came out, this premiered in 2004, and reality TV was already dominating pop culture at this time. Like, think of shows like Fear Factor and Big Brother were already out, Survivor, American Idol, and they proved that those kind of formats could hook audiences week after week, while Extreme Makeover, for example, tapped into the obsession with physical transformation. And against that backdrop, NBC introduced something new, a show that combined competition, makeover culture, and America's growing fixation on weight loss, and that was the premise for The Biggest Loser. It was simple, but gripping. You take a group of everyday people, put them through intense workouts and strict diets, and see who could lose the most weight. And at the end of each week, someone would be eliminated, and the ultimate winner would walk away with a cash prize and a body that supposedly represented the ultimate success story, especially in this era. And keep in mind, this was 20 years ago when the show came out, and we didn't have all of the science that we now have publicly readily available due to the internet when it comes to weight loss and how things affect your metabolism, etc. And we had some different ideals about what was healthy and what wasn't. But what made The Biggest Loser stand out was its combination of spectacle and inspiration. it was framed as motivational, like if they can do it, you can too. And if you're a viewer of my channel, you may have seen a bunch of my other videos on Dance Moms, and I remember that I used to watch these shows back to back because they had the same effect on me. And I would watch The Biggest Loser when I was going back to college every summer right before I went back to college, because I knew that I was going to get my ass beat in the first couple of weeks of dance class after sitting on my butt all summer. And that was the same reason I watched Dance Moms, because I was like, if these little kids can do it, then I can do it. And The Biggest Loser had the same effect on me. I never was somebody that was morbidly obese or needed to lose a substantial amount of weight, but the show was that inspiring to anybody that watched it, in my opinion. But it also leaned heavily into the drama, rivalry, shocking weekly weigh-ins. Like, it still was a reality television show, and they leaned into the drama just like any other reality television show. And the transformations were extreme and often televised in jaw-dropping before and after reveals, which brings us to Rachel Frederickson, like we will get to in just a second. But culturally, the show landed at pretty much exactly the right time. The early 2000s were peak diet culture years. I remember this was the era of like Nicole Richie and Paris Hilton and A Simple Life, and all of the girls were trying to fit this 00 aesthetic. I remember personally in my high school that they called them the 00 grad year in the 2000s, because there were so many girls that were taking like ecstasy and other drugs so that they could try and fit into this 00 for their grad, so that they could wear this 00 prom dress. And that was just the time back then. Like, the Atkins diet was everywhere, Slim Fast commercials ran constantly, celebrity magazines devoted entire covers to who was too thin or letting themselves go. And The Biggest Loser didn't just reflect that obsession, it completely amplified it. It normalized the idea that your worth could be captured in a single before and after photo, and it packaged weight loss as an entertainment for millions of viewers at home. But let's talk about Fit for TV, which is the Netflix documentary that kind of went behind the scenes to figure out all of the information about The Biggest Loser. Well, Netflix's Fit for TV pulls back the curtain the entire way on the reality of weight loss shows, but specifically The Biggest Loser. And the picture it paints is far darker than what we ever saw on screen. And we saw some pretty dark stuff if you remember the show. But former contestants describe constant behind-the-scenes manipulation, producers pushing storylines, manufacturing rivalries, and pressuring participants to go further and further for dramatic results. The environment was often toxic, filled with shame, intimidation, and the ever-present threat of elimination if the weight didn't come off fast enough. The docuseries also highlights how unrealistic the entire setup was. Contestants weren't losing weight in sustainable, healthy ways. Instead, they were rushed into crash diets, dangerous exercise regimens, and even dehydration tricks just to tip the scale at weigh-ins. What viewers saw as dedication was in reality people putting their health at serious risk to survive another week on television. Now, don't get me wrong, there have been tons of contestants that have left this show and have been super satisfied with their results, and at least a third of them have actually kept the weight off and have been success stories. But for every success story, there's another person that put all of the weight back on, and according to a New York Times article, had their metabolism destroyed being on the show.
The contestants thought the show would transform their lives and their bodies, but now shocking accusations by some former contestants claim that the reality show is full of lies, deceit, and diet drugs, and many eventually gained all that weight back.
One of the most outspoken former contestants of the show to criticize the show is Suzanne Mendoca, who was on season 2, and she claims that the show actually made her gain weight, like gain even more weight before she came on the show, to then lose it again, so obviously not very healthy. But she claims that she applied and that she told them she was eating healthy and was already inspired by the show, and they're like, no, don't do that. Go gain a whole bunch more weight before you come on the show, because we want bigger people that can lose a bunch of weight rapidly.
When you first approached The Biggest Loser, they met you, and then what'd they tell you to do?
They told me if I wanted to be on their reality show that I would need to gain an extra 30 to 40 pounds.
You had to get bigger to be on the show.
Absolutely.
Why do you think that is?
Well, they want to see contestants drop a lot of weight during the show. And the bigger the weight, the more numbers you'll see on the scale. Completely unhealthy.
Absolutely. Now, you came forward in the last couple of weeks because the National Institutes of Health was doing a a study to figure out why so many of the contestants on The Biggest Loser gained the weight back. And they came up with, because the show is screwing up people's metabolism.
There was a giant New York Post article that claims that they had destroyed their metabolisms by being on this show and participating in this, and that their metabolisms were healthy for people of their size before participating on the show, but after participating on the show, their metabolisms continued to slow and slow and slow and slow down.
The show is screwing up people's metabolisms.
Absolutely. If you see the research study, they've ruined people's metabolic rate. Their hormones are all out of whack. You know, it was only a matter of time before all these contestants would regain their weight. They lost the weight too drastically. It's not realistic training 8 hours a day, eating 800 calories a day. You're just not going to maintain that in real life.
And during the course of the show, you lost how much weight?
I lost close to about 100 pounds. I was a size 4.
Now, let's talk a little bit about how you did it. All right. You know, it's a TV show, so they want a dramatic result, you know, from week to week in the weigh-in and things like that.
And that's where the disconnect lies. The Biggest Loser was sold to audiences as proof that hard work equals results. It was marketed as the ultimate motivational story. If you just push hard enough, you can transform your body. But what Fit for TV reveals is that the show's glossy success stories were built on unsustainable methods that had little to do with long-term health. The version of weight loss we saw on TV wasn't reality, it was reality TV.
Behind the scenes, what were they giving you in the form of assistance in losing weight?
So basically, everybody thinks that this show gave wonderful tools, and they did not. They were advising you.
Diet and exercise.
They were advising you. Bob Harper would tell me, eat 800 calories. Suzanne, if you eat that many calories, we'll win a weigh-in because you're eating less. I would train every single day and vomit on the set. And they said, great, you'll even lose more weight. Again, we'll win another weigh-in.
They were happy to see you throw up.
They did not address contestants throwing up on a daily basis. They created eating disorders. They did not try to provide any assistance or help to any of these people, because you would not advocate for an 800-calorie diet in 8 hours a day training.
They were encouraging you to starve.
Yes.
Which is not good for you.
No, absolutely not. And that's why you have majority of these contestants heavy again.
Which brings us to Rachel Frederickson.
We had a contestant who was not my contestant, and I still profited off of The Biggest Loser. I take responsibility for being a part of a show that allowed this to happen. Personally, I wouldn't have allowed it to happen, but I profited off of a platform that did. And this is when I was like, okay, I'm complicit and I have to leave. But a contestant named Rachel Frederickson walked out onto the stage during the finale. I hadn't seen her. Bob hadn't seen her. And she was unhealthily thin, to say the least. These are all, and nothing good came out of that. I am 100% positive with regard to her health.
So essentially, Rachel Frederickson was on The Biggest Loser in season 15, and she had the most headline-worthy weight loss of the entire show. And that's because when she left the show, she looked like this, and she weighed 105 pounds. Now, I personally used to love The Biggest Loser. I used to watch this every summer, probably around this time, like in August, right before I went back to college in the fall for dance. And that's because I knew that in my first 2 weeks of dance class, it was going to kick my butt after not training that hard all summer. So I'd watch The Biggest Loser to get inspired, because if they can do it, then I can do it too. And I know that that's why a lot of people watched as well, whether you were somebody my size that was just watching it for the fitness inspiration, or you were somebody that was larger and was trying to lose weight and you were super inspired watching these people losing this weight right before your eyes. There were many reasons why this show was inspiring, especially when we heard all of everybody's backstories and stuff, but this show had its controversies, but it was definitely this Rachel Frederickson moment where the show lost all of its credibility. So to dive deeper into that, essentially what happened is the show has the run of its course. They film the show and then they go home before they filmed the finale. So when Jillian and Bob looked super surprised when they saw Rachel come on stage, it's because they hadn't seen her since she went home. And then there's a period of time where they're at home before they come back for the finale. And she continued on her own words. She said she was eating 1,600 calories a day and taking multiple classes, and that she was eating several times a day, like breaking it up into 6 meals, and that she came back as 105 pounds. And then this made giant headlines because people were saying she looked emaciated, that she'd taken it way too far, and questioning like the show's morals and the show's intentions and all of that, because they're like, okay, are we putting out the wrong message? Like, the show is about getting healthy and about losing the weight. Has it gone too far when it becomes about just losing as much weight as possible to win a TV show? Or has it gone too far to the point that somebody is developing an eating disorder because of participating on this show? And that's when, to the public, the show definitely lost its credibility. And I don't think that it was all this one Rachel Frederickson moment that can be blamed for that, because the show had a lot of questionable things in it. Since all of the backlash from the show, Rachel Frederickson has retreated from the limelight, though. She's not on social media, she doesn't give interviews, and she only has a LinkedIn, but like, I'm not here to go digging and prying into her life. Aside from that, she claimed in one of her most recent interviews that in order to adjust to living life, basically, that she did put on 20 pounds, and that she was sustaining that, and that's good for her.
Controversy over The Biggest Loser. Stunning weight loss for Rachel Frederickson has many wondering if she was putting herself in danger by losing so much weight so quickly. Now she's answering her critics. ABC's Lindsay Davis has the story.
From the moment the most recent winner of NBC's The Biggest Loser stepped on the scale, revealing her 105-pound weight, critics have been weighing in, calling her anorexic and frighteningly emaciated. But now Frederickson is defending her weight to People magazine, explaining how she lost 60% of her original body weight, the most in the show's history. The 24-year-old says in the 4 months after the show, she lost an additional 45 pounds before the finale by eating 1,600 calories a day via 5 small meals and maybe 3-4 classes a day, including Zumba and spin.
And this is where my problems with the show were, because back in the day, we had all of this ruthless coaching on the show, which we were kind of expecting was just how a coach acts, whether you're in the Olympics or whether you're training to do any kind of athletic thing, whether you're just at the gym working with a personal trainer. I know that my young, impressionable mind was thinking that this is just what it means to be a coach. It wasn't until like Dance Moms came out that I was like, oh, I'm old enough to know that that's not how you should be speaking to people, whether they are children or adults.
Should I say roadkill?
But we always had Bob and Jillian screaming on this show. There's a live Biggest Loser channel that I found on Roku, and I've been watching a couple of the episodes just to prepare for this video and to remember like what the format really was and stuff like that. And honestly, the show was very inspiring. People come, they tell real stories of how they ended up becoming obese, how they ended up having food addictions and stuff like that, and they're real relatable stories, and you're seeing them work so hard week after week. They're so committed, which is definitely inspiring. But when you get to the very end of the show, when people are now just competing for a cash prize and it's all just about how much weight you actually lost, that's where the real problem is, in my opinion. And that is where the show just seems a little bit seedy and evil and dark at the very end, is because you have people that have lost all of this weight. They've been super inspiring for the viewers, for anybody watching, so that you can know that this is possible and that I can put my health first. And then it always takes a dark spin at the end where it's no longer about health, it's them going home, and they're home for like months at a time, I guess. It's like, I've heard anywhere from 3 weeks to like a couple months that they're home before they come back in for the finale for their weigh-in, and they're no longer monitored. These people are going home and they're in it to win a $250,000 cash prize. So people are going home and doing whatever. I don't know if they drug tested these people or what they did, but you can't go home after being severely morbidly obese, go home and come back as emaciated and underweight and tell the audience in America that this is healthy. Like, these people are just taking it to the next level to lose weight just for the cash prize. And it kind of reminds me of when we would have actors lose like 50 pounds until they're severely malnourished so that they can play a role on TV or film. It kind of gives me that kind of vibe, and that's where The Biggest Loser took its darkest turn for me.
In an interview set to air on The Rachel Ray Show, Biggest Loser trainer Bob Harper says what people don't understand is when the contestants leave to go home, they're in charge of themselves. So when she walked out, I was just kind of like, whoa. Susan Rappaport, who's lost nearly 120 pounds herself and now runs a fitness studio in New York, says she's concerned about Frederickson's well-being.
She's going to have to modify her diet very much in order to maintain where she is now. That's where extreme eating disorders are born.
According to the Ladies' Home Journal, the ideal weight for a typical 5'5" small frame woman is between 114 to 123 pounds. Based on that recommendation, Frederickson is now nearly 10 pounds underweight.
Obesity and anorexia are on the same spectrum, just at opposite ends. It is not uncommon for one eating disorder to basically transition into another eating disorder.
Even the fashion industries in certain countries ban models with less than 18.5 body mass index from walking the catwalks. Frederickson's BMI is now 18. But when asked if she had reached a healthy and sustainable weight, Frederickson's response, absolutely. For Good Morning America, Lindsay Davis, ABC News, New York.
If Fit for TV exposes the mechanics behind weight loss reality shows, then Rachel Frederickson's season 15 finale in 2014 was the moment those cracks finally showed in real time. Rachel entered The Biggest Loser weighing 260 pounds, and she's 5'5". Now, by the finale, she had dropped to 155 pounds. That was like the last time that we saw her on the ranch before she went home. She looked great, she was super healthy, but here's the problem. She left the ranch looking like this, and she came back with this for the actual live finale. Stepping on stage at just 105 pounds, the reveal was shocking, not just for the audience at home, but even for the trainers. And then you have the host, Allison Sweeney, being like, oh, there's lots of whispers, like people just trying to do the math in the audience about how much weight loss she needs to lose. And it's like, no, that's not why they're whispering. They're whispering because she just stepped on stage looking like she has had a severe restrictive eating disorder for years. And she did this over the course of a couple months, which especially the last tail end of that is very scary. But that's what I found the most haunting, was watching these finales as they weigh in, and you can hear the host being like, you need to weigh this much in order to still be in the running for The Biggest Loser. And everybody's weight, which is determined by how much their other contestants have weighed, they're all an unhealthily small weight for that person. So it's like, in order to bring home the $250,000 cash prize, you need to weigh 119 pounds. Your starting weight was 450 pounds, and you're 6'6". And it's like, I think we've lost the plot on this show. And in many ways, Rachel Frederickson definitely crystallized that, because if you were already thinking it, well, this season definitely brought that into fruition, because she won, they televised it, they put it all out there, and everything that was possibly already wrong with The Biggest Loser, it was never really about health. It was about results. It was about producing the most dramatic transformation possible, no matter what it took.
Pills. Tell us about the pills.
So, you know, behind the scenes during my season, I have heard that many of the men took diuretics. There was also talk about ephedra pills. I personally did not take any pills. I can tell you firsthand that Bob Harper and Dr. Huizenga...
Bob Harper was the trainer?
Well, he was my trainer, yes. Completely just... terrible.
What do you mean?
He would come to me, and Dr. Huizenga, and said, oh, you're dehydrated. You need to digest 2 tablespoons of baking soda.
What would that do?
It would actually make you retain water weight. What they were trying to do is manipulate the TV show into who would go home and be kicked off the show by manipulating contestants' weight.
How many people wound up going to the hospital?
I would say about 5 people on my season. You would see them.
They don't show that on the show.
They don't show that, no. Unfortunately, they should show that, and they should show how many of these contestants have gained their weight back. They're not showing that because, you know what? They've washed their hands of all responsibility of these contestants after after the show. They've made billions of dollars, unfortunately destroying these people's lives.
Did The Biggest Loser hurt or harm the contestants' metabolisms?
I think that if it harmed it, it was by a fraction of what was said. The show could have done way better in teaching healthy lifestyles. I think we got a habit pattern going, and so the people that got addicted to exercise did very, very well. But you need a lot of support, and we didn't do that. And, you know, shame on us for not taking some of the profits of the show and trying to help these 382 people.
They should be responsible for all of these everybody's like they're suffering depression, anxiety, their health. They've destroyed our health.
The show denies all of this.
Of course they would. We know as contestants the truth, and you know, bring Bob Harper here. He'll refute anything, but you know what? I'm here speaking the truth. I'm telling you exactly what happened. I have no reason to lie. Unfortunately, these are the awful practices that they did behind the scenes.
You, Bob Harper.
All right, you guys. Well, that is about it from me on The Biggest Loser. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and you learned something from it. If you haven't watched the Fit for TV documentary on Netflix, I definitely recommend it. It is 3 episodes and I loved it personally. I watched it twice already and I thought it was great. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Do you think that this show kind of like lived past its due date? Or do you think that this show could still work in 2025, maybe with a couple tweaks? Let me know down in the comments below. But that is it from me for today. Before we go, I just wanted to say thank you to all of my patrons for supporting this channel. And as always, make sure to be weird, be wild, and stay sparkly. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.